Behold the voice of God.
For those of you who don't know me officially, my name is Amanda Waller.
And I'm Aaron Moss, your host of Task Force X.
What, we some kind of suicide squad?
Well, yeah, that and
Checkmate.
Task Force X is a podcast that tells the stories of John Ostrander's Suicide Squad and Paul Kupperberg's Checkmate from the late 80s, early 90s.
I want to build a team of some bad people who can do some good.
And that's what Suicide Squad is. While Checkmate is a team of good people doing some good. My mission here is to chronicle each and every title in all the books that Suicide Squad and Checkmate appeared in during that era.
We're the U.S. government. You're going to start a blog and expose us?
Well, a blog and a headcast, Amanda.
Those scumbags are trying to screw me.
Not at all, Amanda. Just trying to help everyone else discover the joy of the Suicide Squad and Checkmate. Anywho, hope you guys have as much fun with these comics as I did when I first read them, so many years ago.
Mother...
That's enough of that, Amanda. Let's go and start the show.
I didn't believe the stories.
Nobody does. Remember, I'm watching. I see everything.
Squad mates, this is Aaron Moss, a.k.a. Brotherhead, coming out at you. And here we are with episode 47 of Task Force X. This episode, I'm calling Finishing Moscow and Preparing for Apokolips. I know you usually don't say the show title, but I'm going to start doing that, I think. If you don't read it on the thing, which you probably do, but you know what? I like my little titles, so I'm going to start saying them. Episode 47, Finishing Moscow and Preparing for Apokolips. As usual, we have 2 issues. We're going to start with Checkmate number 20, and then we're going to move on to a character profile for Major Victory. Yes, I'm sticking with those for a little bit. And then I've got Suicide Squad number 32. So let's start where we start with the first issue, Checkmate number 20. Again, I lean on Mike's Amazing World of Comics because Mike's got a great site. He tells me that the cover date on this was September of 1989, but the on-sale date was July 25th of 1989. Cover price was $1.50. The title of this one was called Into the Night. That's Night with a K. The writer, as usual, friend of the show, Paul Kupperberg. The penciler, as usual, Steve Irwin. Our inker is still Alve. Letterer, Gasper Saldino. Colorist, Julianne Fritter. Editors, Jonathan Peterson. The cover was done by Steve Irwin and Dick Giordano. And the synopsis, once again, I've taken this from Mike's Amazing World of Comics. A night in Moscow tracks down an informant to gain leverage to help with the defection of Anatoly Krasnov? Wow, that's a Russian name, I can't do it. Krasnov. He is led to Sonia Petrovok's girlfriend, but Soviet agents are waiting for him. Dana is captured and taken to a nearby prison for questioning. Krasnov breaks him out. Then the Peacemaker breaks into the facility, having traced some weapon dealers to the Soviet Union. The attack gives the Knight the time and cover to get Krasnov, whatever his name is, safely out of the country. The defector then provides information to expose a mole in the U.S. Department of Defense. So again, that was the issue. Now for my thoughts on this, as I normally do. As per my norm, we're going to start the cover. The cover, we see Peacemaker jumping in through the side of a building, it looks like. He's saying, "Back off, you quacks." His insurance policy just came in. He's firing his guns. We got a soldier behind, holding onto the Peacemaker from behind. We got a couple of doctors, one with a scalpel. We have a Checkmate Knight strapped to a table. All in all, this is a great cover. It's very action-oriented. And while it doesn't actually reflect what actually happens, it does give us a broad sense of what the issue entails. We do have a Checkmate Knight captured. We do have Peacemaker breaking in. So overall, I would say this is a good cover. Is it something worthy of hanging on a wall? I don't know if it's that good, but I enjoy it. Moving on to the issue itself, our story starts where we finished off last episode. We get Beth, our knight, coming in, and Winston, one of the knights from earlier in the series, is on a couch, is in his shorts and a pair of little slippers or whatever. Hairy Irish guy. And Beth's like, Winston, you're alive! Alive! It's alive! It's alive! And again, from the back, she's got a cute bottom. That's another story entirely. And Stein finds out from the doctor, asks the doctor if this is a real deal or not. Dr. Diabo. And she tells them that, they've done every scan and everything matches up with their files. So if it is a fake, it's a really good one. And Beth is talking to Winston saying, if I'd never be able to forgive myself for abandoning you. And then we get a little flashback to issue 7 of Checkmate, which I covered back in episode 30 of this show, back on September the 19th of 2017. I covered issues 7 and 8 of Checkmate. So again, if you missed that episode, or if you don't remember, because again, it's been a couple of years ago to our time, we had Winston was and again, we may have not made this clear back then because I may have not been sure. I haven't re-listened to that episode in a while. But Winston was the knight that was down on the ground. It was shot. Beth was the female knight that was stopping our killer up on the top of the balcony or whatever it was. And there was bombs left in this building to explode. There wasn't enough time to get everybody out. So Beth got away. Our female knight got away, leaving the other knights, who we find out now know as Winston, there. She got out, the building exploded. That's what we saw as far as the reader goes. And we get that recapped. And like here on page 4, there's 4.5 panels showing this flashback from the point of view of Beth, the knight. And I pulled up issue 7 just again to get a refresher on this, because again, it's been a couple years. And in that story, we did see Beth, but in there she had shorter hair and it was black. Whereas in this issue here, her hair is longer and it's more brown. And again, I'm just cruising that. And we did see this was Winston was one of the knights. He's in a black jumpsuit when we see him. Beth is in a Checkmate costume with her short black hair. Still hot, but I think she looks better with the long brown hair. But scrolling through issue 7, this is on page 21, is where Winston gets shot. He falls to the ground. Page 23 is where Beth, she's about ready to fall off the balcony. She grabs the guy with her legs and throws him over, killing him. Winston tells Beth to get out because there's only a few minutes left. And then page 24 is where we see the building exploding. So these several pages are recapped in like 4.5 panels. Very nicely done. Like I said, it's offset. The color it's like Dungeon Mailing oranges, like a two color orange and black, some grays. It's very nicely done. It gives a kind of a recap, and it's very again comparing the original issue to what we see here. It's very nicely done. I'm just admiring the artwork. I love the artwork here. And Val's, trying to tell Beth, I had done the same thing. Things like this happen in our business. And then on the next page 5, we get Winston basically telling us what we didn't see. Back in issue 7, and again, go back to check, because again, I like checking these things when a story says, well, this is what happened in between. And sometimes they'll throw extra things in there that wasn't there originally. It's like a kind of a cop-out is what I call it. This one here, issue 7, the actual issue I'm looking at, the knight he's by the timer, and he's laying right next to a grate. And then here in our flashback, where Winston's telling what happened, there is a grate, the same grate there. He's able to pull it off. He falls down into the sewers, and he drops into the sewer, and he's like, the sewers aren't the nicest place to spend any amount of time. However, a swim through the effluence of the city's population with open wounds was like a day at the beach, considering the alternative. And here on the bottom of page 5, we get Winston floating down the sewer, and then we see the explosion that we saw on page 24 of the actual issue. And then he's floating and he's able to get himself out. He's on the outside of the palace or wherever it was blown up. So I do like that this callback, because again, that was issue 7 and we're on issue 20. So I mean, that was, 13 issues ago? So that was just over a year ago, story-wise, that this all happened. So I do like the fact that Paul brought this agent back, and he's referencing that previous story. And again, he does not, what I recall, he's not cheating. In the original story, Steve Irwin drew the Great. The Knight was right next to it. So he had it set up then. I don't know if he intended to bring the Knight back, or if it was like, if he comes back, he comes back. I'd probably ask Paul, but he probably doesn't remember this far back, this incident of this series at this point. But I like Paul. He's a great guy. We're friends on Facebook. I love reading his posts. But anyways, that was me, name dropping, pulling a page from our buddy Jared Albrecht, the Arts book. Anyway, but I do like, back to the actual issue, I'm looking at 7 still. So I like here in a couple pages that we get the flashback to issue 7, and then we get Winston saying what actually happened and how he escaped. So it's a very nice the way it was done. I think that Paul did a magnificent job on this issue, re-relating what happened previously and getting us caught up. Like I say, the artwork is phenomenal as always. Then we go to Russia, Moscow, in Russia. And again, I'm terrible at names, but the blonde agent is looking through the papers or photos, and he sees and they're talking about last issue where the Knight approached Krasnodar and tied up Krasnodar's guard, who we found out reports to this guy. And so it's basically kind of a recap of last issue on this page 7. But we have pictures of the Knight kicking some butts. And then we get a Knight that's in Russia. I don't think they ever say his name offhand. I don't recall offhand. But anyway, he's the Knight that we're talking about in the synopsis. He's investigating Krasnodar, trying to see if he's on the up and up, if he's actually willing to defect. And the Soviet KGB guards show up to arrest him. And again, here on page, this one's not numbered. Actually, looks okay. Page 8, 9, 10. Page 11, there's a nice little fight between the Knights. And have I said this episode how much I love the Knight's costume? It's a great design. But again, he beats the crap out of these guards and takes off. And it's just a great little battle scene here. I love the Knight's costume. I love the way that these Knights are so badass. They kick all the butts. And then we go back to New York where we have Blackthorn, who, again, is hot. And she's beating the butts of some drug dealers. And again, we get a lot of inner monologue because this is back in the time when they didn't mind doing inner monologue. But she's kind of, she's thinking, well, she did a good job, but why does she feel good about it? And again, we get a little flashback from her as a kid hugging her dad. And she got here at the bottom of the page 12, she's got a tear coming down her eye. Because again, her dad's apparently not around for her to tell what's going on, for her to talk to. And being a father myself of a little girl, I can understand where she's coming from. Because I know if I wasn't around and Alexis, my daughter, wanted to, tell me about something she's done, I'm sure she would be sad if I wasn't there. So, again, reading this now in 2019 as a father of an 11-year-old girl, compared to when I read this back when I was 19, no kids, no family, it takes on, some of these stories and some of these subplots take on a whole different, like either this issue or next issue. I talked about last issue with Harry and his ex-wife. Again, 2019, I have an ex-wife. I was divorced at one time. Reading these stories take on a whole different meaning than when I originally read them as an older teenager. a young adult, if you will, before I was married, before I had all these, these problems these people, these books are dealing with. Now that I've got kids, I'm divorced. I've got a daughter. I mean, all this kind of takes on new meaning, and it is just fabulous the way that Paul Kupperberg just delves into this and he handles these characters. Like I said before, Blackthorn was a side character, a supporting character in the Vigilante series, but she's not some idle female that, they're weeping by his side or whatever, weeping for him. Yes, she does have emotions. She does cry. She misses her dad. She misses Adrian Chase, who's Vigilante. But she is a character, as the kids say today, with agency. She takes control of her life. She mourns what she doesn't have, but she does go out there and she kicks butt. She doesn't need a guy to save her. So it's a great character. And I think Paul does a great job with her. So magnificent. And then here on page 14, we have Peacemaker breaking into this warehouse. Again, it doesn't tell us where he's at, just elsewhere. He breaks in this warehouse. And again, the Peacemaker is a character that came over from Charlton when DC bought those characters. Peacemaker's an interesting character, and we'll get to more here in a little bit. But he's got his own ghost. He's got an interesting costume design. If you haven't seen him, he's wearing a red t-shirt, goes down to the biceps, a pair of white pants. He's got like blue boots that goes up to his knees. He's got a white jetpack on, and then he's got like a white helmet with like a white section bar that wraps around the top of it. It's a very interesting look. Like he's not a bad. And in fact, if you go to the website taskforcex.headspeaks.com, and it may be on the Facebook page, I'll post the cover, and the cover shows what his costume, what his helmet looks like. You can't quite make out. I don't know, maybe. I'll post the cover on the website, and it may be on the Facebook page. But definitely check it out. Like I say, it's an interesting costume. I like it. It's not my favorite character, but I do enjoy Peacemaker when he shows up. When he shows up, oh, Peacemaker, okay, I like him. And again, Peacemaker, he's just, he breaks in and he's like, let me see. Yeah, he breaks in, throws the guy through a window. He's like, haven't you learned yet? You cannot win. I follow leads from Brighton to Berkhurst to here, searching for the source of the Soviet arms being sold to terrorists. I know I'm getting close. And I'll be damned if the likes of you stop my mission now. As he's just wading into these guys. Just great. He's a great fighter. Just kicking all the tail. I like to hear top of page 13, 14, 15. He's socking this one guy. He's like, I fight for peace. As he's talking to this guy comes with a knife, another with a piece of pipe. And he just stops them both, and he takes the knife from the one guy and jabs it into the leg of the other guy with the pipe. And again, just like he leaves a trail of bodies as he says he fights for peace. He's like, but then you wouldn't understand what that's all about, would you? As he drives the truck away. I love the Peacemaker. He's a very interesting character. Like I say, he's very much working for peace, as he says. But he's very violent about it. So it's very interesting. And then we're back in Moscow, where the Knight is talking to Krasnok's girlfriend, as I talk about in the synopsis. And Knights are the KGB guys, Soviet soldiers busted the front door. And the leader's like, I am Major Minyov of the Komovet. Whatever, I'm not even trying to pronounce that. You are under arrest. And he's like, that's my cue to exit. And he turns to leave. And he's like, I hate leaving Sonia in the lurch, but we're both dead to take us in. Well, he's this way, I'll be outside working to get her free. As there's guards waiting for him outside. And the main guy's like, as I was saying, you are under arrest. We've expended considerable effort in contacting you, or locating you. We will not lose you again. And I hear he's like, well, I've often wondered what it was like inside the Fortovo prison. Now I know. And then we get one of the the soldiers, I forget what's his name again? The major. We'll call him the major, because I'm not going to try to pronounce his name. He's, saying that you're going to speak to me. He's rolling his sleeves up. We get a doctor. We get the night one of his gloves is off, laying on the table with his belts. There's utensils all around. And again, the major's like, you will tell me who you are, your contacts, your mission, and most important night, you will tell me about Antoli Krasnok? Yes, you will tell me everything you know. And the knight's like, it's a Saul spill. Something he's saying to build attention. Get me sweating. It's working. And I love that scene there on page 18. We get a close-up of the knight's eyes as he's looking at the scalpel. His internal monologue's like, it's working. He'll start by finding a way to bypass my mask anti-tampering device. Then the rest of the suit will go. I'll be naked, vulnerable, at his mercy. And again, the knights they're trained to undergo things like this. So he's starting to, plan out what the major's going to do to him. And then he's like, stop it. Okay, I've got to stop it. I've got to get together. I've got to get the hell out of here. He's like, if I let him inside, he'll have won before he started. And as this going on, we get the truck that the Peacemaker stole earlier outside the gates. Again, we know where he's at this point. We see a truck pulling up to a gate, and the guard's like, hey, you can't park that here, keep moving. And the driver, which we can't see in this panel, says, I'm not parking, I'm making a delivery. And then the next panel right next to it, we see the Peacemaker's face in the mirror of the truck, and he's like, you'll sign for it? Blam! He just shoots the guard. And then, here it is. The next on page 19, we get Harry arguing with his wife. Again, having been divorced. Luckily, she kind of dropped out of the picture, so I didn't have to have these issues that Harry's having. He's arguing, because again, as I talked about last episode, Harry's got a very important job. He's working to make sure the world's free. Meanwhile, he's got his ex-wife fighting with him about custody of the children. She's upset because he has to cancel occasionally to do his job, which again, when I got divorced, again, luckily I had the kids. My ex-wife dropped out of the picture, so it wasn't a problem, but I worked at an internet company. I did tech support. Harry Stein, he's running a government covert operation to keep the United States free. So, again, he's got a very important job. So, as a single father, I feel for the guy having to fight his ex-wife for custody of the kids, because he's trying to do an important job, but he also is trying to juggle being a father. That's a tough thing to do, especially, like I said, for Harry Stein, he's trying to be a good father. He's trying to do what best he can for the kids, but he's got a very important job. He's not just some bum. He's not just some guy, like I say, working tech support or working at McDonald's. He's actually keeping the world, the United States, and which involves his kids, free. So, yeah, I really feel for the guy, and we'll see how it goes from here. But yeah, so at this point, he's still arguing with his ex-wife. She's taking him to court to get an injunction to keep him from seeing the kids. And again, like he says here, he's like, well, keeping me away from them is supposed to make them feel better. Like, I didn't bring this, Harry. You did. So again, I do feel, as I've said repeatedly, as a single father at one time, luckily I didn't have to go through this, but I do feel for what Harry's going through. I mean, again, he's got a lot of crap going on, and he's trying his best to not only be a good father, but to keep the world free from the villains, if you will, in the world. And they're back in the prison in Moscow, where we get, it first looks like Harvey Bullock almost, with a trench coat, a fedora, but it's director Krasnok, the guy that was looking defect, and the blonde guy, again, I haven't said his name, Colonel Popov. That's his name. The blonde guy from earlier is Colonel Popov. He's showing that they captured the knights. Actually, at this point, no, he's not showing the knight. He's showing them Krasnok's girlfriend that they have captured. And they show her she's in a room by herself. And then Krasnok's like, who is she, Colonel? And the Colonel's like, I'm surprised you don't recognize her, Comrade Director. Considering you've been conducting private liaisons with her for a number of years. Do not bother to deny it. Your driver is one of my men. He reported these rendezvous, as well as your meeting with the knight. You have been quite indiscreet, Comrade Director. And again, the Krasnok pulls his gun out, and the Colonel's like, I've arranged for the knight to find out about his girlfriend in order to trap him. My aide is questioning him. We'll soon know about your planned defection, huh? And Krasnok's like, you'll learn nothing, Colonel. Nobody will. As he shoots him dead. As we cut over to the Peacemaker driving through the gates, guards are shooting at him. He's like, time to deliver my message. Personally, this tyrant should help. Say goodnight, boys. As he shoves the tire iron onto the gas pedal, keep it going as he flies out. This is gonna hurt. And we're back inside where the doctors are looking at the Checkmate Knight's helmets, and as they're trying to take the mask off, there's an explosion, and one of the doctors there's like, "What was that?" And the Knight's like, "Yeah, what was that?" And then the next panel, we see the Peacemaker come flying through with his gun. Commie scum. And then Krasnok busts open the door. He's like, that sounded like an explosion. I would worry about this gun, Captain. I've come for the night. Release him now. And the guy that's over was like, do not be ridiculous. We all know about you. Colonel Popov. And he's like, is dead, Captain. Now do as I say. Then I must stop you in his place. And so Krasnok shoots him. And he's like, do you think I got where I did by being afraid to pull the trigger myself? Great line there. Again, he's high up in the Russian governments. And again, like he said, he got where he's at by willing to pull the trigger and shoot people if need be. So Krasnok frees the knights, and they change into the guards' costumes. They go escorting him out. Peacemaker runs into him, and he's like, and all Peacemaker sees, he sees, we get Krasnok, we get the knights, we get Krasnok's girlfriend all dressed in, well, two of them, the knight and the girlfriend are dressed in Soviets, soldier, cops' costumes, whatever they are, not costumes, their coat and hats. And Peacemaker's like, you look important. One of your men has himself a sideline and dealing arms to terrorists. Find him. And the knight opens his coat and shows that he's a knight. And he's like, I'm a knight, Peacemaker, on a mission. What the hell are you doing here? And I love this line here. It's on the last page 24. The knight's like, I'm here to register a complaint. See you back in the States. And Krasnok's like, what was that all about? The knight's like, believe it or not, another mission in progress. And the knight the Peacemaker's running down the corridor, just shooting the hell out of everybody. And again, everything else is just kind of, whatever happens, because then they just jump to the next day in Germany, where we basically just get some dialogue from the Expeditional News Network, actually Expeditional Night Network, where Krasnok fingered the KGB courier and the mole. And I like this. The night was like, the KGB is going to be scrambling for a while to try to come to cover their butts on this one. Not to mention Peacemaker's work. What was he doing anyways? And the other thing, again, I can't quite tell what it is. He's like, well, do I hear it? He was registering a complaint. So I'm assuming it's, let me see, I'm just looking here on this page. Because the knights here had light hair. So it looks like the one that's talking. And then off panel, we see him pouring some champagne or something. Or orange juice or something. I'm not sure. It's a picture of something. And we just get off panel, someone saying, well, the way I hear it, he's registering a complaint. So I don't know if the speech balloon on the previous panel was off and they should have been pointing at the guy with the dark hair, because the light-haired agent's the one that heard Peacemaker say he was registering a complaint. And the next, the California Water Wars. Again, it's a great issue. I love the artwork. I love the storyline. I love what Paul's doing on this book. It's great. And like I say, the next issue we'll talk about next month. It's involving California. That's where I live. And in fact, next issue, which I'll talk about, it's a little close to home for me, which we'll get to next issue. But again, great issue, great dialogue. The artwork is always fantastic. I don't know what else more to say. So I'll tell you what, we're going to take a quick break. We're about half-hour mark. And we'll come back with a character profile. Please hold.
We'll be back with much more fun. Now don't you change that channel, son.
The time is out of joint.
The time is out of joint.
The time is out of joint.
The year is 1994, or 1944, or maybe 2994. Time is under threat, and history is falling apart. Who will survive this crisis, and how will history be changed for those that do? 0 Hour Strikes takes you back to that DC Comics crossover and covers the entire story, issue by issue, tie-in by tie-in, as the DC universe goes down to zero. Join Bass and Siskoid at fireandwaterpodcast.com or on iTunes. 0 Hour Strikes, a proud member of the Fire and Water Podcast Network. Remember, Legion.
This be some spread. Gambit not gonna be playing solitaire tonight.
Gambit, what are you doing over here? Talking to yourself in the third person. And what's all this food?
Oh, Professor, Gambit have plans tonight. Once Cher shows up, Gambit gonna wine and dine her. Then we gonna listen to Fanholes, the pop culture podcast made for the fans, by the fans.
Fanholes? I'll not have my school turned into a den of debauchery and science fiction trivia. No, Gambit. You'll just have to perform your obscene mating rituals elsewhere.
Uh-oh, sound like the professor getting a little cranky. Gambit think it's time for you to go to bed.
What? What are you? Ow! Unhand me at once! Unhand me, you swamp-fed ignoramus!
Relax, mon ami. Gambit just gonna tuck you in real nice.
X-Men, emergency, help! Curse you, Fanholes!
Hey, don't mess with the Fanholes.
Weekly content on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and fanholespodcast.blogspot.com.
My eyes become
Baby, I compare you to a kiss from... That damn song is stuck in my head now. Thanks a lot, Pete Holmes. My mind!
Hello, Paul. Hello, I am Dr. Herfenstaffner. Come in, please. Take a seat. What can I do for you today?
I can't sleep. I can't focus on anything. The only thing I can think about is like DC events.
DC event, as in the comic books. DC events.
Yes, the comic book events.
Ooh, interesting. Are we talking things like Crisis on Infinite Earths?
Yeah, totally. That one, yeah.
Infinite Crisis?
Yeah, that one too.
Oh, very, very. Invasion, maybe?
Yeah, definitely.
The Genesis?
Not so much.
No? Oh. Okay, well, I think it's really good if you talk about the things that are troubling you in your life. So maybe you should do a podcast about this obsession.
What do you call this obsession? What do you think it is?
I think you're a unique case. I've not seen anything like this before in my office. I'm going to suggest that you have what we call DC OCD.
What? DC OCD?
You are obsessive and compulsive about your DC events. I think you should talk it out, get it out of your system via a podcast. I will help you, my friend. We shall do a podcast together about your DC OCD.
Oh, okay.
I won't even charge you for it.
Awesome. I don't think I can claim you on benefits.
Yeah, it's good.
When shall we start?
I'll get back to you on that. I'll check my timetable.
Cool.
We are green from head to toe. Now we go back to the show.
Welcome back. Make sure you check out those shows. Great shows, one and all. Now, once again, we have the return of the character profile. This episode, we're going to be talking about Major Victory. Major Victory's real name is William Vickers. His first appearance was Batman and the Outsiders, Annual Number 1, 1984, and he was created by Mike W. Barr and Jim Aparo. His team affiliations is the 4th of July, Suicide Squad, and later on Captains of Industry, the Shadow Fighters, and Shade. That's SHADE. His abilities: he has a suit that provides enhanced strength, flight, and energy blasts. Now a little bit about his background. The man born William Vickers started out as Major Victory when the group known as the 4th of July was founded. There was an organization called American Security Agency who found 5 willing Americans to undergo tests and transformations to become a force for America, the 4th of July, and made no efforts to keep this a secret. With apt code names and a lot of pomp and circumstance, these patriots held America's flag high as they took on missions that B. Eric Blairman assigned to them in the name of the president. Major Victory became the leader. The force had many successes, believing that they were doing was absolutely right, no questions asked. Major Victory and his team are featured in the 1987 Outsider Special, which continues in a similar Infinity Inc. one-shot. The two teams investigate forces' ties to the corrupt Prime Minister of the country of Markovia. That's where the Outsider Geoforce is from. The Outsiders member Geoforce is the prince of that country. Told you. Major Victory leads the assault when a combined Infinity Outsiders team infiltrates their California base. All their heroes are subdued. Major Victory personally defeats the new Outsider members Looker and Katana. In reference to Katana's Asian heritage, Major Victory says, "Never could figure it out. I can understand the Jap turning on us, but Looker, she's an American." In the comic crossover that we've actually covered here recently, that includes Suicide Squad, Checkmate, and Firestorm titles called the Janus Directive, the 4th of July is drawn into battle with the Suicide Squad. Each side believes the other is acting against the interests of America. This is the result of plans of Cobra and international terrorists. The squad kills the force's Mayflower, Sparkler, and Blairman dies of a heart attack. Major Victory wants revenge against the squad. Despite this, he serves with them reluctantly, battling Cobra's plans, which result in the deaths of many more innocent people. He learns Waller had orchestrated the original fight to give the impression to outside hostile forces that an attempt to replace Waller with a double has succeeded. Major Victory loses his remaining members, Silent Majority, and Lady Liberty, who sacrifices themselves in an attempt to stop Cobra. He comes to have a grudging respect for Amanda Waller and her tough ways. Afterwards, the United States government asks Major Victory to maintain his post of the squad and reports on Waller's activities. This is going to be spoilers for upcoming episodes and things that happens after the Suicide Squad.
Spoilers!
So if you don't want to know what happens in upcoming episodes until we get there, and the future of Major Victory, you may want to go ahead and skip to the approximately the 42-minute mark. And that's where we'll continue our story, and we'll continue things from there. But for those that want to continue listening, the Major refuses, reminding the government that he was a civilian, and the man who provided him with the uniform and purpose in life, Blairman, was dead. The Major was going to follow his own conscience, and the government could not control that. Major Victory went underground for some time, keeping his activities covert, especially since at that time the squad was disgraced and Waller was in jail, serving a 1-year prison term. This will be upcoming in issue 39, 40 in that area when this stuff happens. Eventually, Major Victory returns to public duty. He reunites with the Suicide Squad under Black Adam's command to help stop Cersei from her holy war against the Earth and all humanity. It was during this mission that he met and was recruited by the Captains of Industry. He served that team until its dissolution. Captains of Industry was big in the Firestorm title, and it was a John Ostrander thing. Calypso. So Bill is later seen amongst a group of heroes assembled by Amanda Waller to evade the island stronghold of Calypso, a villain that can take over minds. This group of heroes is called the Shadow Fighters. In issue 13 of the Calypso series, several of the Shadow Fighters make their move. Calypso easily moves among them, killing them one by one. Major Victory, side by side with the older hero Commander Still, is beaten to death by multiple Calypso bodies. His bodies and the bodies of other dead heroes are retrieved in a risky mission by several surviving Shadow Fighters. And then it goes on, there's a new Major Victory, who has some sort of link to the United States government also, showed up in Metropolis a few years later. He was one of the first victims of the Hollow Men, which drained them of all color and energy. But he was later restored. He had a few appearances in the Superman stories at the time. And we have about 15 seconds to go before I told everyone to come back. So we're going to just, I'm going to vamp a little bit and say this and that. And that should take up enough time. All right. But that is the character profile on Major Victory. Welcome back. If you're coming back after skipping the upcoming information on Major Victory, that's all over with. Now we're going to move on to the next comic we're talking about. Next up, we're going to look at Suicide Squad number 32. Cover date was 1989. The on-sale date was July 4th of 1989. The cover price was $1. The title of this was called Steel Trap. Written by John Ostrander and Kim Yell. Penciler was Grant Meehan. Inkers were Keith Stan Wilson and Kevin Phillips. The letter was Todd Klein. Colorist Carl Gafford. And the editor was Dan Raspler. The cover was done by Carl Kiesel. Or Kessel. Whichever you say it. This was reprinted in the Suicide Squad Apokolips Now trade paperback, which came out in 2017. And the credits I just read off and the synopsis I'm about to read all comes from Mike's Amazing World of Comics. Thanks, Mike. The Suicide Squad is dispatched to Iran to rescue a former Iranian, now U.S. citizen, who is scheduled for execution. Although Waller wants Count Vertigo on the mission, the new psychiatrist, Dr. McCoy, which we talked about last month, refuses to clear him. Also, the Duchess refuses to go. She has personal business to attend to. Despite the limited roster, the team succeeds in their mission. Meanwhile, the Duchess, a.k.a. Lashina, attacks Barda and demands to be returned to Apokolips. And notes from Mike's Amazing World of Comics, it lets us know that this issue takes place after Mr. Miracle, issue number 6. I believe I'm not mistaken, Mr. Miracle number 8 was on the stands at the time, but this story takes place after Mr. Miracle number 6. So, that's the synopsis. Now to my thoughts about it. So as I want to do, I'm going to start out with the cover. We start off our Suicide Squad logo at the top. The main cover itself has a picture of the Iranian, who's the star of our story, called Raza Guam, I believe it is, Sham. A little muddied in this issue I've got. His American name was Ray Graves. He is next to a wall with bullholes in it. He's got a blindfold on, a cigarette. A classic death by firing squad type situation. And over the wall comes bouncing, leaping, flying, whatever you want. It looks like leaping. Shade, the changing man, he's got the meta-vest is full active. It's distorting his appearance to people, how it does. A really good cover. When I think of Suicide Squad and Suicide Squad covers, this is one I think of. Again, not quite poster-worthy, I don't think. But again, it's pretty close. I really like this cover. I'm a big fan of Shade. Somewhere, again, in the distant past, after I started collecting comics, I had the Shade miniseries. I forget if I got it at Comic Comics, my normal comic shop in Merced, or if I've got it at Wonderland Comics up in Fresno, which I've talked about over on Head Speaks. I forget where, but I had that miniseries at one point. So I really liked Shade. I thought he was an interesting character, and I'm glad he showed up on the Suicide Squad. So him being front and center on the cover was really nice. I like that. The actual story itself starts out with Sarge Dill and a couple of other gents who I'm not quite sure who they are. Unless I missed something, they're not named. There's a military guy. He's got brass on his uniform. And some other guy just in a jacket with a sweater, something looks like. Look, maybe he's bald. Discussing, they're giving the background about how this Iranian defector was captured. He was told his mother wanted him or needed help or something like that. Oh, his mother was dying. That's what his mother was dying. And so he snuck back in to try to see her, not knowing or not caring that it was a trap. He was captured. And so these guys are sitting around talking about what to do. Again, he was a bad guy, or he was an Iranian, but now he's an American citizen. And the president, according to one of the guys here, I think maybe it's Sarge Dill, looks like, is saying that, the presidents had decided we're not going to let the Iranians execute him. So they're trying to figure out who to send in. And like they mentioned the Justice League, but they're out because that would violate their UN charter. The general guy, whatever it is, saying send a major force. And one of the other guys is saying that a major or a strong presence will revoke a strong response and send in Checkmate, let them spirit the guy out. And again, the president wants the U.S. a strong presence, but a military presence would cause international issues and make it a worse issue than it is, possibly. So he decides to send in the Suicide Squad. I like here on the bottom of page 3, when he's talking about that, he's like, so I'm sending in the Suicide Squad. Let's see if we can come up with an idea of how to get them out again. And in, I guess it's surprint, like a red surprint around them, we see members of the Suicide Squad as they're talking about this. So I really like the way this panel's designed. As I've talked about before, I'm not a big art guy. I just know what I like. And again, Suicide Squad, this is still going along the dark and gritty motif that the book has, which is perfect in my opinion for this book. And I just really love this one panel here in particular. We see Bronze Tiger, Vixen, Boomer, Major Victory, what's his name, Ravon, Lashina or Duchess, Count Vertigo, and Shade in surprint, like they're watching, and they're all looking down like they're watching the proceeding on, because it involves them and it's going to involve their lives possibly. So just a great panel. And then we move on to page 4. And I misspoke earlier where I said that the psychiatrist was introduced last issue. It was actually introduced this issue. I've had a little bit of time, so I've been reading a couple issues and getting notes ready. So I thought I talked about this already, but this is the first time he's coming up. So we get this psychiatrist guy named McCoy, Dr. McCoy, as he calls himself. He said that he saw Kale, the new head, in quotes, of Suicide Squad on the news, and this psychiatrist, this doctor guy, knows that it's really a guy called Jack Kovacs. So he knows that since they're calling him Kale, that something's going on. So he called him up and asked him why. And at this point, we find out that, he knows that the team needs a new head shrink, and that's what he does. He's a psychiatrist. And I like this. He's talking to, let me see, actually, I guess Jack, Kale, as we're going to call him, told him I need a new psychiatrist. And Kale's like, Mac's actually very good, Ms. Waller. And Waller's like, That's why he's trying to blackmail his way into a government job rather than making real money in the private sector. And McCoy's like, I have a certain specialized knowledge which makes my working in the private sector problematic. And Waller's like, and what's that? I had a nervous breakdown of my own. And so Waller asks the priest, Father Kramer, what he thinks. And he tells her, hire him. First off, I don't think you have a choice. And second, he knows his stuff. And I like this. So Kramer's like, you need to hire him because, I think he knows what he's doing. Plus, you have no choice. And she's like, choice? I've always got a choice. What if I decide to have you killed, Doctor? Yeah. McCoy's like, well, my first official act of my new job, I have you committed. Because that attitude, Miss Waller, is just plain nuts. And he's like, one other thing, Miss Waller, if I say someone isn't fit to go on a mission, they don't go. You send them anyway and I'm gone. And I'll go noisy. And I like this here on page 5 as they're talking back and forth. We're getting a real extreme close-up. All we see is Waller's eyeball, right around the eye. And extreme close-up of McCoy's face as they're having this little talk. And as Waller, she gives him the job and says she wants to talk to the father. And she's like, somebody told McCoy to make that last demand, and it wasn't Kovacs. He wasn't here in the Flag, Deadshot fiasco. And again, we go back to that personal lies issue from a couple months ago, where Kramer was saying that Amanda likes surrounding herself with people they'll make a check and balance. They'll stop her from just something too outrageous. And let me see here real quick. And he thinks that the Mac, as they're calling him, will do that with her for the squad. And he's like, you realize you capitulated to Mac. If you really had no intentions of hiring him, you would have found the excuse. Stop me if I'm wrong, or fire me and McCoy. Right now. And she's like, excuse me, Father, I got some work to do. And again, here on page 6 is Kramer is talking about, again, how, the conversation where he pointed out that she likes surrounding herself with people to stop her from doing things. We're got a close-up of his face with some panels inset in the background almost. We get Waller with the prison bars behind her and her face kind of most of her face in shadows. Again, page 6, the whole thing's nice, but this panel here, if you pull out these 2 insets, it will be a fantastic panel. It's just great. I love the way this panel looks. It's just Kramer's, laying it out to her, and you can tell. Again, her face is in shadows for the most part, but there's enough there that you can see that she is extremely upset. I just love that. And then when he's all done, he's like, you either fire me and McCoy or go along with it. And she's like, I got some work to do. And just walks off. I just love that about her. She's great. As I've said before, I love Waller's character. She's fantastic. And then Waller continues in the room she was going into and talks to Flo and Flo tells her Sarge Still's on the line for her. So Waller takes in her office. And Flo goes back and continues talking with Oracle. Again, I could be wrong, but I don't think we've actually discovered who Oracle is at this point in the book. But we do get another clue, I guess. We see that this person, Oracle, is in a chair. A wheelchair. So whoever Oracle is, apparently it's crippled because they're in a wheelchair. Well, his Flo's going on about how again, as we've talked about previous issues, Flo really has a thing for Ben, but Ben's more attracted to Vixen. And I like this here. She's like, I'm back, like I was saying. I'll never get my chance with Ben. That hussy Vixen goes on the missions with him. So she really doesn't like Vixen just because Ben's attracted to her. She's attracted to him. And Flo wants Ben, but again, he's not attracted to her. But instead of blaming Ben or not accepting the reality of it, she blames it on Vixen, calls Vixen a hussy, like Vixen's in control of it. And they hang up, disconnect from each other, and Duchess, I don't think at this point we found out who she is in reality yet. We've had hints about it, and we've had things that something's going on with her. She comes up and she just, spins around and says, promise to tell anybody. I'll make sure you go on a mission. And Flo's like, oh, really? Would you? My lips are sealed. Which one win? Tell me. And Duchess is like, sooner than you might think. And I love this panel of Duchess here because she's talking about, getting full on this mission and it's going to be soon. She's got a crazed look in her eye. I love the way that, you can tell that Duchess is starting to go off the deep end, which we'll find out soon why. Not really why, but we'll find out more about Duchess and who she really is. Well, I said it in the synopsis, but ignore that. Then Waller comes busting in and tells, we got a mission, put everyone together. And I like this. She's like, let me see. Get everyone together. You want to talk to me? Do it on the way over. We're going on this. You're going on this mission too. And she's like, no, I need to. How's the expression go? Take care of some business. And Waller's like, listen, Miss High and Mighty, didn't you just hear me say there's a priority mission? You think just by saying no, you're exempt from this mission? And unless Duchess is like to see you come and try and make me go. I'm not a prisoner here, and I won't act like one. And she just storms off. And I love this line of dialogue. I don't know if this was Austin or Yale, but she's like, this is Waller. She's like, I'm turning to a soft touch in my old age. People keep taking advantage of me. Because again, this is two people in one issue. It's kind of, actually three. Because you got Kramer and Mac plus Duchess is all telling Waller what they're doing, which is counter to what Waller wants done. Which again, Waller does not like to find herself in that position, as we talked about. I think it was last issue. Last episode, she likes to be in control of things. So this is really offsetting for her. And so she meets in the meeting room, and as I talked about in the synopsis, she finds out that McCoy said that Vertigo can't go on the mission. And so we have in the waiting room here, we have Briscoe, Vixen, and Bronze Tiger, Captain Boomerang, Ravon. I think that's right. I think that's Ravon. Major Victory and Shade. And again, I love these characters. Yes, Ravon. I think I pronounced that right. I love these meeting rooms where Waller walks in or someone walks in. These characters are all sitting around the chairs, just doing their thing, waiting for the show to start. We get, most of them are just, let me see. Briscoe's just kind of laid back, waiting. Boomerang's in the background are staring ahead. We get Vixen and Bronze Tiger talking to one another. Again, I think they both should have been in the Suicide Squad movie, but that's another story entirely. It looks like Major Victor and Shade may be discussing something. Ravon just has his legs crossed, waiting, just. So Waller comes in and gives them the mission that they're gonna free this Guavaham, whatever, in Iran. They're gonna break them out. They're gonna get in, free them, and they're gonna get them out. And I like page 9 here at the bottom. Waller's laying out the mission, and Ravon's like, "Please, a question. Would you like us also to kill whoever's running around this week while we're at it? Not to worry, only a little more effort required. Throw country in turmoil, easy pickings." And in the background, Boomerang looks like he's ready to go along with it. Bronze Tiger eyes are like, what the? And then the next panel, instead of answering right away, Waller's got her pointer up on her shoulder and her hand over her mouth like she's thinking about it. And we get Ravon rubbing his hands together like, I'm waiting for that one to do this. And Waller's like, maybe. But her answer's like, I like what you think, Ravon, but no, this will create enough furor with the Islamic States as it is. But that's not right away. She thinks about it for a minute. She's like, maybe we do want to do this. Oh, it's just great. And then on page 10, again, this is a very serious book. It's like I say, it's supervillains. doing dirty deeds dirt cheap. But again, it does have its moments of laughter or humor. The next page, we get Major Victory's like, I wonder who's leading this mission. And Waller's like, Bronze Tiger's the mission leader. And Major Victory's like, I'm accustomed to leading and I recommend I lead. It's far and too important to list a mission of this magnitude to someone whose power is a repertoire of fancy kicks. And Bronze Tiger has an apple he puts on top of Major Victory's head. Major Victory's head says, hold still a moment. And Bronze Tiger's like, I'm going to swipe that apple off the top of your head. And Major Victory's like, oh, sure, I'd like to see you. And before he gets the word try out, Bronze Tiger's sitting there eating on the apple. And then below that, he's like, next time, it'll be your nose. I'm Mission Commander Major Victory. End of discussion. And the rest of the team is laughing. I mean, Shay's got bent over laughing. But the funniest here on bottom of page 10, we get Briscoe. He's fell out of his chair. He's just laughing so hard. I just love this panel. Boomerang, we kind of see in the background, is like kind of astonished that it happened that way. Ravon's amused. Vixen's kind of chuckling, it looks like. But I say, you got Shade bent over laughing, got his hand on his head, just laughing so hard. And then Briscoe, like I said, just fell out of his chair laughing. I love this page. If I had a wahaha moment like Shag does over on the Just League International podcast, I would have to say this here is the wahaha moment of this issue for me. Again, I don't do that because this isn't a humorous book like Shag's book is. But this one panel here is just hilarious. I love this. And like here on the next page, as they're going on to the mission, they're kind of kicking around whether or not they should be interfering in this. Some of the team doesn't mind. Some thinks they should be saving them. And again, so we get Boomerang like, she threw me on this team, but why'd she let some other people stay behind, basically. And Bronze Tiger lays out that Punch and Julie don't have the right powers. I like this. So he's like, Punch and Julie don't have the right powers for this mission. As for Dr. Light, well, Light is an idiot. Because again, as we talked about before, Dr. Light's been beat by children. So yeah, at this point, he's not a great supervillain. He's just there to fill the comedic role and when they need someone to dump on. And then he continue on. He's like, you're a jerk digger, but you're an effective jerk in combat. And then Vixen brings up that, she doesn't know if they should be saving him. He's like, it feels like they're trying to rescue a Nazi war criminal. And Bronze Tiger's like, there's another side, diplomatic immunity. He should have been protected by it. So basically, even though he agrees that while Guavaham, whatever, maybe he's not the nicest guy, he's done some evil stuff in his past, he is an American citizen and he should have diplomatic immunity. And Iran capturing him and trying to execute him kind of breaks that down, which is a problem. So I do like that while I say Bronze Tiger works with the villains, he is a good guy and he does have a moral compass. At least it allows him to do the job that he needs to do. So I think that's very nice. A good piece of writing by Ostringer and or Yale, whoever did that. And then we get the Gavam, whatever his name is, being let out for his execution. And here on page 13, we get the squad members mixed in the crowd. On this first panel, I recognize... So I'm not sure if it's Vixen or Bronze Tiger. It felt like that's Vixen there in the background with... You can't really tell because she's all wrapped up in a cloak, but we can see Bronze Tiger down further with the stripes on his face for he uses for his costume. We get another character, I'm not sure who that one is, in the robes. And then we get Boomerang, we can tell because he's got his distinctive sideburns in his face. And the next panel, we get Boomerang talking to Vixen. He's like, I don't like getting dressed up in drag, even if it is Iranian drag. And these things smell. And Vixen's like, that's why I like working with you, Boomerang, your fortitude. And so they pet the prisoner up against the wall. Now he wants a blindfold. And he says, no, let me show you how I despise you right to the end. And the guard's like, last wish? Go to hell. We'll begin then. And again, so this is a bit different than the cover. He's not blindfolded. He doesn't have the cigarettes. But we do get the cover here next. or almost. Behind the thing where he gets shot at, we get Shade sitting there like, I think this is a long way around to meta. Because again, that's why he's helping out the team. His whole purpose is Waller has promised to help get him back to Meta, his home. So, then we go to the Iranian broadcast studio where Ravon breaks in and uses a garrote, I think it is called, around the guy's neck and tells him that, no matter what happens, he's supposed to keep broadcasting what's going on, not to stop. And so as they go to execute him, we get the cover, sort of. Rick Shade jumps over the wall, grabs onto the Iranian guy, and the field activates and covers him and protects him with bulletproofness, if you will. And Shade's like, we're here to rescue, Colonel. Keep your head down and your eyes closed. I don't want the distortion effect working on you. Whatever they fear most, that's what they're going to see. And we get, I don't know if it's supposed to be Allah or who it is, but some guy, Iranian guy, comes blurring out of the meta vest, scaring all the guards. And then the team gets a little fight. Bronze Tiger jumps up, takes out one of the guys with the camera, and they're still recording themselves freeing the prisoner. So we get to the next page or two is a little bit of fight. Major Victory throwing one of the guards around. Vixen using her bird to fly. Her powers to imitate a bird to fly. And as Major Victory fights, again, he's a very patriotic guy. He's very, not sure the right word I'm thinking about, but, he's like, all right, you murdering scum, your buzzards have come home to roost. You have been toying too long with the mightiest nation on earth. Here's where you get yours, courtesy of Major Victory. And Vixen's run to take care of her tank, and she's like, but somebody please stuff a sock in Major Cliché over there. And she uses the power of an elephant, because we see an elephant in the background and Serpent saying, I may not be as noisy as Motormouth over there, boys, but I get the job done. As she flips the tank. Again, I'm more of a fan of Animal Man, but I really do like Vixen. I think she's a great character, a great character of color, a woman, very powerful, part of the Justice League at one time. Now a member of the Suicide Squad again. I wish they would have included her with the Suicide Squad movie. I think she would have been a great addition. But again, they didn't ask me what I preferred. So anyways, what was I saying now? But yeah, she's a great character. And again, very strong and powerful. Oh, that's what I was going to say. I mean, she is on the Legends of Tomorrow. She was on there. Now it's, I'm trying to think now. One of her great grandmother, I think, or grandmother, something, was on there for a while. She did have that on the CWC. She had an animated show, so she's getting a little love right now. So that's a good thing. We get Captain Boomerang throwing his boomerangs around as he does, and he's like, again, this is some great. I don't know who wrote the dialogue in this. It was Kim or John, but the dialogue's great. He's like, trying to get a beat on me, eh? The Ayatollah Boomerang sends you to death. He's so boomerang, boom, boom. He's like, you're ugly. The Ayatollah Boomerang says, off your head, and you're too ugly to live. The Ayatollah Boomerang sends you to off your hand cut off. And we get a close up Boomerang's face. He's like, Lord help me, I think I'm starting to understand Komen. This is fun. So I just love that, he's doing boomerangs around. The Ayatollah Boomerang says, off of your head and off of your hand, and you don't deserve to live. You're too ugly. Again, for a serious comic, this has some great humor points at times. And I think this is one of them. It's just another great scene there. And then we get the back at the TV station, we get somebody on the phone. I guess he's in a different area, a different room. He's like, keep broadcasting. How can you say that? Can't see what's happening? And the guy from earlier that Ravon was threatening, he's like, he's still there, guys, a knife to the guy's neck, and the guy's like, yes, keep broadcasting. We have a duty to our viewers. Ravon's like, good, very good. And so they pull out, and the Colonel holds on to Shade's neck as he flies away. And Victory flies away and grabs Boomerang by the ankle, and Boomerang's like, not like that, you blip, 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 doob. And Victory's like, you're lucky it's not by your neck, creep. And then Vixen uses her powers of an eagle, or some sort of bird, flies down, takes off of Ben, and they get on the helicopter, and Ravon ends up killing the guard, or the guy, not the guard, but the guy at the TV station. He says, I did you a favor for allowing this to be broadcast. You would have died a horrible death. These people, they're barbarians. And so he considers himself a bit more civilized than a lot of other people. So it's kind of funny. And then we get Kale talking in front of the cameras, saying that the Commune has ordered hits on Gravon, whatever his name is, who rescued him. And he says, Iran is just reinforcing their images as international gangsters. And one of the guys like, are you also on that list, Mr. Kale? It's head of the Suicide Squad. How does that make you feel? And Kale's like, damn proud. It's an honor roll as far as I'm concerned. And then we get Cosmos and Waller in talking. And John's like, he hadn't really considered that until just now, had he? Funny how he may have let himself in more than he's figured this gig is worth. And Waller's like, I'm not going to worry about it. For a change, the mission went off as planned, and we got everybody back. That's success, no matter how you look at it. And so now she's just wondering what's going on with Duchess, and she's like, go be a happy woman if I knew where Duchess was going on. And then we got to Bailey, New Hampshire. Again, that's where Mr. Miracle and his wife, Big Barda, was living. Some of the New God characters. As I've talked about elsewhere, I want to like the New Gods. I try to follow them every time they come out with something. But I'm not a huge fan of the New Gods except for Mr. Miracle. I love Mr. Miracle. I think he's a great character. I love him and his marriage with Big Barda. For those that don't know, Mr. Miracle is the son of Highfather from New Genesis, one of the New Gods. He made a deal and he switched sons. He gave his son scot-free to Darkseid. And Darkseid gave Highfather, Scott's dad, his son Orion as kind of like a peace brokerage, if you will. Scott-free was pet in the orphanage ran by Granny Goodness. He eventually broke out and won his freedom, which is why he calls himself Scott-free. And along the way, he met and fell in love with Big Barda, who at one time was one of Granny's soldiers, one of her female Furies. And somewhere along the way, again, this is before I got into the comics, she realized that she wanted more. She wanted something different. She fell in love with Scott. I'm not sure how it happened, but she ended up defecting, leaving the female Furies, and her and Scott's trying to live a normal life. She's trying to live more normal, I think, than Scott is. Scott likes the spotlight because he's a performer. That's who they are, briefly. So Barda's at home. She's saying that Scott and Oberon are away from just JLA business. At this point, I think Scott was a part of the Just League Europe, if I'm not mistaken. And she hears a knock on the door, and she thinks that Scott. She's like, can't you two remember to take your house keys with you? And all of a sudden, a metal whip comes flashing in the window. And here we find out, finally, that Duchess is really Lashina of the Female Furies. She tells Bart that she's going back to Apokolips, and Bart's going to help her with a few other volunteers. So Big Barda's knocked out. And in case you don't know who Big Barda is, she's a very beautiful but tall and well-built woman. She's very muscular. She's, again, a powerhouse. And we get our ending here. There's a broken refrigerator. And our ending says, next, back to Apokolips. I love the ending of this. Like I say, this takes place after Mr. Miracle number 6. I'm assuming it's resolved before Mr. Miracle number 7. I can't remember the tie-in to that book offhand. It's been a few decades since I've read that. I may have to reread that one of these days. That was a great book also. But that's it for this story. Like I said, I love the art. I love the dialogue. I love the writing. It's overall, it's a fantastic book. And I love what John Ostrander has started and what him and Kim Yell are doing on this book. is just a fantastic story. That's why I'm covering. I'm a bigger fan. If I had to choose, I am a bigger fan of Suicide Squad than Checkmate. Suicide Squad is the book I wanted to cover on this, but since Checkmate is part of the same group, they're all part of Task Force X, hence the podcast, I decided to do them both. And since they do crossover occasionally, there is reference to one another, I decided to include them both. But Suicide Squad is the book for me out of the two. So that is that issue. Another great title, another great story. Fantastic. I can't either say much more than what I've been saying on this. Definitely, if you haven't read it, what are you doing? Listen to this podcast. Go out and read it. It's a great book. But that's going to do it for this month. Not much else more to say, really. So go ahead and join us next month when I cover a couple more books. Let me take a look at my list here. I've got a list helping me out. Next month, I plan on covering, let me see, I've got Checkmate 21, which has the Return of Bishop. I'm going to do a character profile on Silent Majority, another one of the 4th of July characters. And we're going to cover Suicide Squad 33, which is called Apokolips Now. But before you get that far, be sure to join us for our other books, our other podcasts. We have next week should be Starman Manhunter Adventure Hour, episode 27, where I'm looking at Starman issue 22 by itself. And then I'll have Coppa Comics Comic Rack. But Manhunter's finished. I'm not sure at this point if I want to look at the Kate Spencer Manhunter or if I want to look at the other books that Manhunter showed up. I'm still debating on how to handle all that. But for the time being, I'm just going to look at Starman and we'll go from there. Also, next week, I should have an episode of Bravo Team out. Honestly, when I'm recording this, I'm not quite sure what we're going to cover yet. I've got to talk to the guys, see what they want to do. I haven't decided. Then the next month, we'll come back. Not next month. The next week after those two come out, we should have Head Speaks, which is our 50th episode, which is Just League Europe Annual number 2. I kind of wanted to have Armageddon 2001 number 2 be in the 50th episode, but due to joining the JLMA crossover back in May, that kind of threw me off a month, so it is what it is. But yes, that will be our 50th episode of Head Speaks. Join us as we have a star-studded, well, probably not star-studded, but we're going to have a couple of guest hosts. Excuse me. A couple guest hosts joining me for that episode. Then the week after, join us for G.I. Joe, a Real American Headcast, episode 29, looking at issue 29, and episode 16 of the cartoon. And then, as I said earlier, be back here for episode 48 of Task Force X. And we're slowly closing in on Task Force X number 50. Join us. And again, feel free, please. Not feel free, but please send me an email, send me a message, rate me on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher. If I receive a rating from you guys, I will definitely read those on the air. I don't get any emails right now. I don't get much feedback on the website, so I haven't been doing a mailbag recently. I may do one just listening to everybody that's liked things in the last couple of months. Here, maybe I'll do that in episode 50. But definitely, if you rate my podcast on any of the podcast platforms, if I don't read it on the air, that means I didn't get it. So maybe send me a quick email to let me know. Maybe I'm looking in the wrong area for it. You can also, speaking of emails, you can send us an email to SMAH, that's Starman Manhunter Adventure Hour at headspeaks.com. Send that in. I'll read your emails on the air. And also, finally, I guess, I have finally a little bit, I've joined the new putting a bucket out there era. And I have set up a Patreon. Patreon, easy for me to say, or not so easy for me to say. It's at Patreon. I'm trying to find what it is now. Patreon.com/Headcast Network. Again, I'm not doing much with it. I've been talking about it on the shows a little bit. I haven't made a major push on it, but feel free to check it out. And if you want to throw a few bucks in the tin to help out, I would appreciate that. And we'll go from there. But anyways, until next time, I guess that's going to do it. Send me your thoughts, send me your emails, send me your thoughts and prayers. I would love to hear from you. Until next month, I am your host, Brother Head. I guess that's it. Squad mates, dismissed.